With the anticipating return of Kuminga, how do you see him fitting back into the rotation alongside Jimmy Butler?
I don't like these hard-hitting questions like this. This is a, it's a great question. It's a really difficult thing when you are playing really well, and then you have a key guy coming back. And it's always tough. So, I think the idea is just bring him along slowly. Play him in short bursts, help him get his rhythm back, but. We've got to keep playing Guy Santos. We've got to keep playing the guys who are helping us win right now. And so usually this stuff has to kind of play out. And so we'll hope that it plays out.
And that's the question, right? Where does Kuminga fit into all of this? With all the success that the Warriors are having, they keep on rolling. And I wanted to start and highlight with Guy Santos. And you heard Kerr say, well, we got to play him. We got to keep playing him, right? And as he's gained these consistent rotational minutes, he's such a spark plug and a guy, obviously, they don't have to run any plays for. And, something that the Warriors have been missing for the last couple of years is a home court advantage. And there's various reasons. We've talked about it, right? And pricing out the fans, and just not a very good, exciting brand of basketball. And now all of a sudden you got Quentin Post, you got Guy, Pods, GP. All of a sudden we've got all these guys that can spark the crowd. And of course, winning cures all, right? But Guy, with his consistent minutes, we know about the motor. We know about the passing and the rebounding. I think the next layer for him is he's a better offensive player than we know. And it's not about running plays for him or like creating ISOs, but I think why he had such success offensively, he knocked down a three, a mid-ranger. He looked the guy off and got a sneak attack, right? There was a play there when the momentum was shifting back and forth, and he looked to the weak side where all our stars were, right? And then he just ripped right through to the rim. It was an element of surprise, and I think that can make him much more dynamic as a player when he learns to pick his spots. I speak about it all the time, right? When you're shooting a basketball, when it's plan B, if you catch the ball and you look for the back cut, and now you look for the handoff and that doesn't work, and now you take the shot, your percentage drops immensely. And I think you're seeing Guy now in the rotation learn where his spots are coming from. And he's going to have 2 or 3 possessions in a game where the defense, his defender, they're not thinking about him attacking and scoring because that's not really what he does. And if he can learn to take advantage of that, it's just going to make him more and more dynamic. And so, yeah, he, like Kerr said, he's part of the rotation. Now, the Kuminga thing, I know I said I was going to crash out if he didn't play Saturday, but my tone has changed, or my feeling has changed on the situation now that they're saying it's kind of on Kuminga, right? And I spoke about it a little bit in the last video. If he has some mental hurdles to get over, then it is what it is, right? My frustration lied with the training staff, right? It felt like he was being held back, and it was the decision making. If Kuminga doesn't feel he's ready, then what are you going to do? Like, that's okay. You got to accept that, right? Now, I've also heard the theory like they're holding him back to tank his value. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that that's the case. But yeah, man, Guy comes out, and this Pistons team, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought, as cliche as it is, the first home game back from a long road trip, I thought we might run out of gas against them in the second half because of their athleticism, the pressure they put on you. And again, we have all these different ingredients, these different spark plugs. I think that the 77 free throws shot last night certainly kind of helped our conditioning, or keeping the pace down, because the Pistons are one of the few teams in the league, I think, where the Warriors may not want to push the pace against them, how athletic they are, right? And then Ozempic Luka, aka Cade Cunningham. Now, I said in today's breakdown, my spicy take is, I think I might rather have Cade than Luka. Now, did you just spit out your drink? You fall out of your... Listen, clearly he's not as gifted as Luka, right? But he's of the same archetype, of the same ilk. And I think what he may lack in talent, he can make up for in intangibles and being a pro's pro. Something that I think we can all acknowledge Luka isn't yet, right? And so I've always been a big Cade guy, and I'm glad to see him kind of fulfilling his destiny now. And it's good for the NBA if Detroit can be a good again. And I think that they are legit, right? And as far as how Cade has gotten better, one, they put better players around him. Beasley was huge. Tobias Harris putting 2 vets around him. But he's also, I think, figured out a couple things. One, he's gotten stronger. Because at Oklahoma, he kind of just wanted to dog walk everybody in the sense of just play like Luka, just super slow and at pace, but he's not as strong as Luka. He's not as heavy as Luka. And once he got to the NBA, he wasn't strong enough, I think, to play that way. And so one, he's gotten stronger. And two, he's changing pace better. He's playing faster because he's got all these guys that'll run the floor for him. And so that combination of things, he's officially a problem. He, to me, is a franchise player. And you saw him go back and forth with Jimmy in that third quarter, man. That was fun, right? I said in today's breakdown, like, when's the last time we had someone not named Steph go blow for blow with another team star throughout a quarter? You know, at first I'm thinking KD, and I'm like, no, let me give JP a little credit. There was some games, Jordan Poole in that championship season, where he took over quarters. Like, as much shade as I've thrown at him over the years, like, I got to acknowledge that. But it's been a long time, right? And what's so crazy about Jimmy is, which it was clearly his best offensive game, right? He only shot 7 free throws. He hit 2 threes? But what's wild to me is these nuance. He sells his ball fakes as good as anybody in the league. Because if you watch, in theory, when he came to the team, it was like the spacing, right? Now, guys aren't necessarily hugged up on him on the three-point line, but because he sells his pump fake at this pace that's so believable, guys still come out to his pump fakes at the three-point line, and they don't want to come off him because you can't give him a runway either, right? And so Jimmy matching blow for blow with Cade, and then, Steph, it was funny. Steph gets his 25,000th point at the foul line, right? That was kind of ironic. But what stuck out to me with Steph is, listen, in the past, when teams come in and they're like, all right, we're face guarding you from 50 feet. We're going to send 2, you'd see him get a little more frustrated at times and maybe not accept it as much, like, because he knew ultimately, like, I have to push through this because how else are we going to, operate? With Jimmy here now, he's much more patient when he sees that defense, right? And you're even seeing some of these like down screens that Steph sets and things like that. Guys are staying with Jimmy. Like, it's truly taking pressure off Steph. There were minutes there in the fourth quarter where Asar Thompson was on Jimmy and not Steph. And then he got the Beasley matchup. And so Steph gives you 32, and not a great shooting night, but what struck me about it was, typically when you see a team defend him like that, it takes a lot of juice from Steph to do what he does, and it's a grind. And it seemed like it came easier to him, even though the defense was effective. And look, it was a fun game, even though there were so many free throws, right? Maybe because we won, right? You're biased when you end up winning the game. You're like, it was fun, but it was super entertaining. It kind of felt like a playoff atmosphere. It got chippy there, and you see the Warriors are more than willing. They're more than willing. Now, Beef Stew is legit crazy, right? He is legit crazy. He's not crazy enough to put his hands actually on Steph, though. He ain't that crazy. And if you look at the Pistons bench, I thought they were going to jump Isaiah Stewart. They were going to grab him. So, and you see Steph is even embracing the new identity of this like more grindy, chippy team where he's popping off. He's talking trash. And again, it's energizing the Chase crowd. It feels like we haven't had that many home games with Jimmy in this new look, but I think that's going to help charge up the crowd. Now, Moses Moody, he guarding his former high school teammate, Mount Varde, they're a factory down there. Like, so many guys there's like 10 guys in the NBA from down there. And I had already talked about you saw it last night. It was on display, and it was one of the biggest plays of the game there, poking the ball away from Cade at midcourt and getting Draymond to the line. It was, you could argue, one of the most clutch possessions of the game outside of the Draymond 3. The Mr. Boom himself letting them things hang. Like, that was such a crazy shot. But, Moses, there was a quote. Now, this isn't verbatim, but there was a quote in his post game where he was like, sometimes even when you're on defense, you got to play offense. And that to me, that hit home to me, because listen, when you get to that level of basketball, there are very few defenders who can let the offensive player lead the dance all the time. Like the guys are just too good. Wiggins is a guy like that where he's so physically gifted. He can kind of let the offensive player do what he wants and still stay in front and defend. Most guys can't do that. And I think that statement there from Moody, it just clarifies that he understands, like, I got to be offensive defensively. And again, you're seeing him, he's got to be, maybe the minutes aren't there, but he's up there with getting deflections and just breaking dribbles up, right? And getting his hands on balls. You wanted a pause, there's a pause, right? But you guys know what I'm saying, man. Before my final thoughts, Underdog, just like the Warriors, I'm starting to roll here. I put out my picks on Twitter yesterday. It was Moses and Schroeder. You knew Schroeder would have himself a nice game against us because he always does. And it's just a great example of styles, right? Because he just looks so much better in Detroit's style of play. And hopefully he finds a home. And I do feel for him as far as being traded so many times. And I think it's a good fit in Detroit and someone that can play off Cade, another ball handler. And so I hit those picks yesterday. And today you've got a ton of boosts right now. There's a gimme pick, which is change any pick to 0. You can't be mad at that one. Or a 50% profit boost, Sunday Fun Day boost. And so you can use the link in the description, code Alchemy, to get up to $1,000 credit on your first deposit. Moving forward, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Trace Jackson got dusted off there, I think, late in the first quarter. We haven't seen him in, it feels like, a month, right? I know I've seen some of you in the comments. By the way, y'all in the comments, man, showing me a lot of love. It's a lot of support. It's so strange in today's world where so many relationships and stuff is online, right? And even though I'm here alone, I feel like I've got a ton of support, man. So a lot of love and gratitude to y'all for the continued support. What was I talking about? Trace Jackson. Bad matchup for Looney, right? Dern, Beef Stew, Thompson, the wings, the way they fly up and down the court and their athletic verticality. And so he was in foul trouble, and Trace got a quick sniff in there, a couple minutes, right? And I say that to say we got Portland Monday night, who is similar to Detroit, quietly rolling, quietly building a defensive identity with a bunch of athletes. In those particular matchups, could you use Trace Jackson, right? Now, of course you could. Is he ready to play? Is it fair to ask him to just play, break glass in emergency in certain matchups? I think he's mature enough. I think he's mature enough and he's in a good enough shape. And so maybe we see Trace in the Portland matchup and some of these matchups where there's younger athletic teams. I heard he's going to go down to the G League. But we haven't spoken on Trace in a while. I do think that, listen, Quentin's played so well, I think it's understandable. And he was in foul trouble. He squeezed the shit out of that 3-ball in the corner late, right? That was about the only rookie type thing. Now, he had some rookie fouls, but I doubt he ever misses a shot that bad. It was a clutch. It was his first clutch shot in the NBA, and it was almost too open, I think, was the problem. But yeah, man, I'm still rooting for Trace, and I still think that there is a use case for him. I'm not sure it's on an every night basis. So he's got to stay ready when called upon. But yeah, man, they just keep rolling. I don't know what else more to say, but just tap in and give you the coverage. I guess Pistons, again, I'm a big fan of Cade, and I think they are legit. Listen, if you catch them, you're one of these top seeds in the East. I wouldn't want to play Detroit because they get to the line, as you can see. You've got 3 shot creators in Cade, Tobias, and Beasley. And let's be honest, they're going to be playing with house money. Just getting to the playoffs is the achievement. And so I'm not saying they're going to win a playoff series, but I don't think it'll be a fun one. And you can see that they got some toughness too, right? They got some toughness too. So I'm intrigued with Detroit. And again, Portland Monday is not going to be an easy one. I guess none of them are in this league anymore, but Chauncey's finally got them playing defense. Ant Simons can 40 ball you. Danny Advia, you talk about fulfilling your destiny. Now, he wasn't going to be a franchise guy, but I scouted him heavily in that Wiseman draft. I was intrigued with him then, and change of environment, and he just keeps getting more and more of a role. He's kind of like their point forward. He's like this. He's kind of Lamar Odom-ish. No disrespect to Lamar Odom. Like Lamar was way more talented. Don't get me wrong, but he's of that ilk. and they function through him, and they've got all, Shadon Sharp and all these Tumani. They got a lot of athleticism, and Chauncey's got them defending. So I'm curious to see what that looks like, because it may be a similar recipe to victory as it was last night against Detroit. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.